Yes, you read the title correctly. Marty McFly originally travelled through time through a time-travelling refrigerator. Nope, I ain't making this up. This actually happened. Hello! Welcome to Brainspill, the laziest show on the internet. My name is Tank, and one thing I love to do when making these videos is to dig back into the past with these movies. Look into the behind the scenes and the original scripts for these movies to see what was intended before the final product was decided upon. And this film in particular, Back to the Future, is no exception. It's hard to imagine this film without the now iconic 1981 DeLorean DMC-12, reaching the exact speed of 88 miles per hour to travel through space and time. This movie is as 80s as it gets. Also, one of my all-time favourites, so that's also partly why I'm making this video today as well. For the uncultured few amongst you, Back to the Future was a movie released in 1985, where teenager Marty McFly is sent back in time using a time-travelling DeLorean built by his friend and scientist Doc Brown. Trapped in the past, Marty McFly must figure out how to reconcile with the past version of Doc to figure out how to get back to the future. Yeah, see? It all ties in. It's funny because that's the name of the movie. Yeah. So, this film was a critical success when it was released, making both the movie and the DeLorean car cinema icons. But the DeLorean was never the intended tool to facilitate time travel in the movie. And there has been a long-spanning idea that, as a matter of fact, it was originally meant to be a refrigerator of all things. This sounds way less exciting, and I'm very glad that someone behind the scenes decided to think of something a little bit more interesting, such as the awesome DeLorean. Writer Bob Gale was actually working on the script of Back to the Future a long 5 years before the movie was released, with time to make various changes and amendments to the script and the story as a whole before the final idea was landed upon. Their first screenplay draft set the story in 1982. This was due to the fact that it was always going to be a constant that the film was going to be going back 30 years in time, to when the teenagers' parents were also teenagers. The original concept of the film came down to when Gale was looking through his father's high school yearbook and wondered if he and his father would have been friends if they were at school at the same time. In the original screenplay, Bob elected that Marty McFly would actually go back in time to the year 1952, which would have been 30 years since the date of when the movie was originally going to be made and released. Originally, the time travel device was a beam of sorts, which was powered by plutonium and Coca-Cola that pretty much zapped Marty back in time. You can see the idea they had in mind in the first draft of the film, which was made on the 24th of February 1981. Here, the idea was that time travel would be possible as a result of the nuclear side of things. And for anyone that's seen Indiana Jones' Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, a film that I really don't like, you might think of some similarities coming up, something that may have been reused in the near future. So yeah, anyone that's seen that film, you will know that there are only a few household items that can withstand a nuclear explosion, with the exception of that of a lead-lined refrigerator, one in which Indy climbs into in order to survive a nuclear explosion. Yes, this actually happened in the movie, and it's a little strange to say that in the previous films we had Indiana Jones fighting people with his whips, but now he's surviving nukes in refrigerators. You can tell the writing team probably got a little bit off topic in that movie, you know, aside from the aliens and whatnot. Maybe they just need to lay off the hard stuff for a while. Yes, as you might imagine, this idea was actually repurposed in Indiana Jones, which was originally meant to be in the original script and screenplay for Back to the Future. In the first version of the script, Marty McFly is told by his teacher in school that the United States government were undertaking such tests on totally furnished houses to see what type of damage a nuclear bomb would do to a typical town. This would of course be the prelude to a situation which would lead Marty McFly to have to climb into the refrigerator in order to survive a nuclear explosion. A little bit more eventful than the actual final film, but there we are. Wait a minute, Doc. Are you telling me that you built a time machine in a refrigerator? This was the original idea until the creators took a long hard think about what this would mean when the movie was released. In particular, the young and impressionable viewers that they would likely have seen this movie. We all like to act out our heroes from the big screen, such as me running around my living room when Spider-Man comes on the screen. Just me? Okay then. And yeah, I can see this happening. I'm fairly sure if I was young and I saw this on the TV and I saw someone go back in time by getting into a refrigerator, I'd do the same thing. However, fridges in the 80s weren't quite as safe as they are these days. Basically because of the way they were built. Now, I know finding a nuclear test site for an infant is not easy, but a refrigerator is pretty much in every home. By encouraging young people to do this, this could have disastrous consequences, particularly given the fact that the design of household fridges at the time was very restrictive. Many refrigerators had latches on them which would hold the door shut in order to keep the food inside fresh, making a seal and keeping anything inside thoroughly secure and contained. So thinking about this in context of the movie, this is fair because yes, it has been proven to an extent that a lead-lined refrigerator will save you from a nuclear explosion. So to facilitate the time travel plot and to get the story moving, this is fine. However, when it comes to a child actually getting inside one of these refrigerators, it could very well be a death trap. They get inside, they shut the door, the latch seals the door, and the child can't get out. This was a real risk and could have very well happened if they made a movie to impressionable kids who might try and act out the same thing after they've seen it. Yeah, probably a smart decision that they re-looked over their ideas. So yes, this was the reason why they ultimately changed the idea from a refrigerator and thought of something a little bit more car-shaped. Not that they thought the idea was utterly ridiculous or anything like that, but the safety was by far the biggest and most important factor here. The other reason I can imagine is that putting a nuclear explosion on a movie screen was probably quite expensive, so choosing something like this was probably a little bit more affordable. It's safe to say this is also a reason why refrigerators are now magnetic instead of having latches, as they are much easier for someone to open and close without someone being trapped inside. Look, I don't ask you what you do in your spare time, so I don't expect you to ask me. So get off my case. Anyway, the actual movie was therefore changed, and now with all the iconic scenes and images that we've seen in the movie, the DeLorean, the lightning, the bell tower, what a fantastic film it is. And it's these things which not only makes the movie more accessible to children, but also far more memorable, where you aren't doing crazy shit off the walls like nuclear explosions. Let's just have a cool time-traveling car that can take you back in time for some fun shenanigans. That's the type of movie we want, particularly from the 80s. I can imagine a lot of movies, particularly today, that would probably err more on the side of the nuclear explosion side of things, so I'm rather glad they chose something a little bit more original and also, let's face it, a lot more iconic. If you are interested in actually seeing the original screenplay, it was pretty much fully made, and I will leave a link in the description of an actual video. In particular, a series of storyboards from some of the final scenes in the movie, which is pretty interesting to see, so you can see exactly what happens. Or what was meant to happen, anyway. Let's just say it was a lot more explosive and also a lot more face-meltingly brutal, so I'm pretty glad that we got the more tame version that we actually did. If you don't believe me, then check it out. If you liked the video, be sure to like and subscribe. If you want to be notified as soon as I upload my next video, be sure to hit the bell button. And if you've got any ideas for what topics you'd like me to discuss next, let me know down in the comments below. As always, sources used in the video will be in the description. So, I want you to tell me what your favourite movie from the 80s was, and I'm pretty sure it has to be this movie. I can't think of many which would beat this, but hey, let me know in the comments. I'd be genuinely interested to have a bit of a chat and go down memory lane a little bit. I'll see you guys in the next video. Fantastic.
you.